Am I the asshole for not letting my husband control the money in our house? My husband and I have been married for over a year, and he knows what I make hourly, but I don't just hand money over to him. Backstory: 10 years my kid's dad took control of my bank account and income, spent my savings, and gave me an allowance of $50 a week from my check. This had to cover gas, groceries, and diapers. I gave birth to our second child a year and a half later and would walk to the store so I would have gas for work. One day, I had to make a decision on buying diapers for my oldest or my newborn. I cried in the diaper section because I couldn't believe my life had gotten to this point. I'll never forget the kind person who purchased the diapers for my children and gave me extra money to hide. When I had gotten home, I was belittled and accused of stealing money to buy so much. When I explained $50 a week for 4 of us, including diapers, wasn't enough, he told me to figure it out. I asked for $100 a week. Eventually, I convinced him to allow me more money. 3 months later, I left and swore I'd never allow another man to do that again. Present day, my husband was fully aware that I came with about $18,000 in credit card debt. I've successfully paid almost all of it in full in 2 years. Made it possible by not having my own house, leech of an ex with 4 kids, and no utilities. I'm responsible for groceries for our family of 5, phone bill for us, and car insurance. I have my car payment and 1 credit card. My husband pays the utilities and house payment. We recently purchased a new-to-us camper, and he took a loan on it and put the money I got from my totaled camper in the bank, so he has that as well as his vehicle payment. He says I should be giving him $300 or more a month for savings and to help with the utilities, and I want. If something happens to him, I can't access that account to pay bills, etc. I don't believe I'm on his account at all. I opened an account 5 months ago and have $250 a check placed into it for safekeeping. I also must get school supplies, kids' clothes, etc. His ex-wife, they split the cost 50/50ths for their daughter, but my ex and I are not on those types of terms. My husband gets huffy that my situation isn't like his, but I told him it is what it is. Every pay period, he will ask me for money for utilities and I brush it off or say, if you buy groceries, sure. He says, I don't know how to save money and he should have what is left of my check each week for vacation, going to dinner, etc. I won't do it. The mere thought of having an allowance again terrifies me. Do I overspend some weeks? Yes, but I don't use a credit card to buy items anymore. I don't rob Peter to pay Paul like I did in 2020. I budget right down to coupons for groceries and what my grocery bill will be before I enter the store. He says I need to trust him and let him hold onto all of our money together because his savings account is my savings account also. I just can't bring myself to do this unless I can have full access to the account as well. I don't see that being an option. He recently sold a vehicle and put $16,000 in the savings and gave me $1,000 to spend on whatever I wanted to. So I put $200 in the bank, bought my kids each 1 Christmas gift early at a friend's house so I don't hand it over now that we're on sale, and I paid $200 a piece per item, ordered myself new glasses, $275, and contacts, $150. I wanted a hoodie for $20 and he said, I gave you money, did you spend it already? I said kind of. He knew what I did with it. And he said he wasn't buying the hoodie because I'm irresponsible with money and he should have never given me the $1,000 and asked for receipts on everything I bought. He knew I went to the eye doctor. He knew how much I paid and he knew about the gifts I got now because I saved more than I spent on the Christmas gifts. He's been very pushy about just holding all the money that his friends are beginning to make comments about it. Telling me I need to pay when we go out for drinks. Telling me I need to pull that debit card out and to pay the tab. I probably have $10,000 in the bank. I leave the tip. I don't drink when we go out aside from water. Occasionally we'll have a sipper, but I won't risk a DUI. I tip because the bartenders are usually really good making sure my water is full all the time and I never go without it. So I take care of them. Part 2. Am I the asshole for buying my sister's dream house? My 27F wife, 30F, and I recently closed on our dream house, and it has the family torn. Years ago, my grandparents owned the family home, but when they died unexpectedly with a lot of medical debt and expenses, our family had to sell their house. It was heartbreaking and sad, and I decided as a small child that one day I would buy the house back. I shared those dreams with my sister. I met my wife when I was 18 and she was 21. Her parents owned a small rental that they allowed her to live in rent-free, just paying for the expenses. She invited me to live with her a year into our relationship, and we got married a year after that. I told her about my dreams of owning my grandparents' house, and she fully supported me. We began putting large amounts of money back for a down payment in the hopes that the house wouldn't go on the market before we could afford it. Because we didn't pay rent and both had good jobs for our ages and the economy we lived in, we were able to put back a very, very large sum of money. My in-laws also offered us a sum of $75,000 for the down payment, and in total we put back about $185,000. About 20 years after my grandparents passed away, their house finally went back on the market at a massive price. The house itself is huge with 6 bedrooms, a large lakefront estate, and several features including a pool and small guest house. We knew that this house would have a huge price tag, and we skimped and budgeted for 9 years to afford my dream house. My sister was also house shopping at this time, but with a much smaller budget. Her and her husband have children, student debt, and rented for the past several years and were not able to put back money in the same way my wife and I were. When our grandparents' house went on the market, I sent the link to my sister and said that we were finally getting our grandparents' home back in the family. She was very excited and said as much, and that was that. My wife and I moved forward, visiting with the owners and real estate agents, having it inspected, and made an offer. They accepted, and we were absolutely over the moon. Throughout this whole process, my sister kept saying how excited she was to have the house back in the family and how nice it will be for her children to know this house and grow up in it like her and I did. Our grandparents' house was the location of every birthday, holiday, gathering, and reunion. And my wife and I planned on making it that way again. Which was why what my sister said didn't raise any red flags. Weird that she'd phrase it that way, but not concerning. We had a barbecue at my parents' house to celebrate the final closing of our house. During the dinner, my Emile offered to kennel our dogs while we were in the stages of moving to keep things easier and them safe, and that was when my sister piped up. She asked why our dogs needed to be watched when the real issue was her kids. My wife asked what she meant, and she said that her kids will need more supervision than our dogs, and that she was confused as to why we'd be so busy that our dogs needed watching. I told her I was the one confused. I didn't know she was helping us move, and that if her kids couldn't reliably be left to their own devices, then she absolutely did not need to help us pack. My sister proceeded to ask why my wife and I would be packing. I told her the obvious. We just closed in a house. For length reasons, I'll leave out a lot of the back and forth, but here's the gist of it. My sister had it in her head that we were buying the house to either A, rent to own it out to her family, or B, transfer the title to her name and have her pay us back in time. Yes, that is literally what she was thinking, despite us never discussing anything like that once. When I told her that was not happening, my sister threw a fit. She was pissed because this was her dream too, and that it wasn't fair that only one of us could live it. That since she had children, they deserved to grow up in the family home, and what did my wife and I even need all that space for? My wife told her that it isn't the family home anymore. It wasn't left in a will. We purchased it, and now it is our home. And we decide what we will do with it. My sister told my wife to shut up and that she had no say in this family discussion. I informed my sister that if she spoke to my wife that way again, we would not be having any kind of contact with her anymore. That she doesn't get to assume we're giving her a house and then throw a hissy fit when she's put in her place. And we left. My in-laws spoke to us on the matter a few times, but all told us we were in the right and that my sister was very out of line. I assumed everyone would agree, but if they did, I wouldn't be on this thread. I got texts and voicemails from my parents saying that we were out of line, threatening my sister. They told me they were disappointed in me for taking my sister's dream from her and that I don't have kids, so I can't understand her want to provide them with a good home and childhood like she had. That it's only fair we set up a way to give her the house and that we could afford to find something else. Even my more distant relatives have said that it was cruel of us to take that from her. I'm honestly super shocked and taken aback. I've seen stories similar to this on Reddit, entitled people thinking they should get their relatives' houses, but I never expected to live it. This feels surreal, and I hate that we're starting this new chapter out on such a sour note. AITAH for buying my sister's dream house. Edit. Wow, this blew up in such a short amount of time. Thank you for your support, and if this continues to be interesting and not blow over, I'll definitely update. Yes, this unfortunately is a real situation. And in case anyone is curious, yes, the house is big and expensive, but it's severely outdated, which is why the size and features don't exactly match the price in today's housing market. Like, I don't think any owners after my grandparents renovated a single thing. Also, I am a woman, lol. Update, I can't read and respond to all of these comments, but thank you. I will continue to update, but since posting yesterday morning, not much had happened. I will add a bit more of what's happened since the barbecue. I haven't responded to any messages my family have left. I honestly didn't think this was that big a deal, but after scrolling through the comments for a while with my wife, we're both taking this much more seriously. A security system isn't an option at this moment. The house needs too much work at this moment to have cameras and such set up. They'd be in the way if everything else being done. We'd have to have them removed for several of the things we need done, and we don't even have internet access at the property at this moment. I will be scheduling meetings with some companies to start coming out and working on the property before we get to the cosmetics. However, we do have someone coming out to change the locks on Thursday. We won't be moving into the house for a bit since it needs so much work before we're comfortable. I've had a few people suggest the story is fake because the price of the house doesn't match the features. The house needs a lot of work. It hasn't been updated or worked on in years, and the price reflects that. Also, we are lucky to live in a state where property values haven't skyrocketed too bad. Thanks for watching, and please don't forget to subscribe.